How long do we keep doing the pig for?
I mean, if we stop, it dies, right?
Oh no, now I can't stop. Matthew, why did you do this? Well, anyway, welcome to a horrifying Zarnia for Games and Geekery. I am John Keevy, and with me is Mathew Howard-Tripp. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
It's not every day that I get to help a baby three-snouted pig
Get through a difficult birth.
All right, yeah. Matthew, what do you do?
I'm a special effects makeup artist and prosthetics artist. We make specialty props and makeups for the film industry. Yeah.
Okay, really very cool. Do you have nightmares?
Not anymore. I used to. No, there's definitely a very obvious separation for real and unreal for me, because I'm like I'm looking at the real photograph and I'm trying to make it unreal with silicon. So there's definitely a separation, like a desensitization.
Okay, yeah. But you do have to look at like a lot of reference things of scary, horrifying stuff.
Yes. My browser history would scare some people.
Okay.
Like you definitely have to look at especially if you're doing like a gory injury makeup or something horrible, then you have to go to all the gore on the internet and get that, which is...
So this is definitely this is our don't try this at home moment. What do you recommend people not Google? I know one.
Like...
Tetratomas.
What's that?
Oh, those
Well, I gotta Google it, right? That's like the whole thing, right?
Don't Google it.
Don't Google it. I don't know what it is. Find out.
A tetratoma is basically a tumor of differentiated tissue.
Oh,
so
man.
it can develop eyeballs, teeth, all kinds of nastiness.
Oh wait, is that where they find like your twin inside, or like they think it's a twin, but it's like hair and teeth?
Yeah.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, don't Google that.
Don't Google the tetrachoma.
Tetratoma?
How do you spell it?
We've gone too far already. We've gone way too far.
But I grew up with in the shock site era, right? Where everybody was sending us, I've seen some things. Never getting this.
How did that influence getting into what you do?
I was interested in this mostly because of the overlap with art and film, and just like a bit of a confusion with what I wanted to do with my life after high school. And I studied film at UCT. And it was like I didn't do the production side, I just did the theory side. And it was fun, I absolutely loved it, but it did leave me with a sense of like, what now after that? Because you can just be a dick at the cinema with your friends, and that's about as much as you can do. And I wasn't really any good at writing, which was the next obvious thing. So I was looking around because I really loved art. I didn't get into art school because I didn't have a portfolio big enough after matric. So I did film, and then I was like, okay, what can I combine art and film, and this kind of naturally, and then like a love for horror films. But I didn't actually know that this industry existed in South Africa when I started. I found my way to a guy that had a prop studio, and he asked me to just help out. And I said oh, you guys are also doing that? And he had a little shop where he was kind of making this kind of stuff on the side. And I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And I had kind of known about it from watching documentaries and watching Rick Baker and all those OG
horror
guys, and seeing them do the stuff. And so I knew of it, but I had no idea that it was happening here. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, this is something I could get into.
What was your art before you got into it? Did it lean towards the horror theme?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It was very juvenile and just monsters and demons and stuff.
Had you tried to make anything before, as a hobbyist?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people that have very successful careers all claim that they were when they were 12, they were making monsters in their garage or something, and I can't say that I did. I think it was more that at the time it was a paycheck. And then while I was busy earning the paycheck, I learned to love the process of it. And I think that something to do with the attention to detail and the problem solving and the fact that nothing is ever the same. Every problem you get is always different. And every film you do is we know you made that 3-headed pig, but what about a 4-headed pig, That's always how it's going to be, and that's always
exciting. How many heads can a pig have?
Yeah, hypothetically, how many heads could we fit on the pig? And I kind of gravitated more towards the problem-solving technical side of it. I started making molds and started, doing the gags and I really enjoyed that.
Can you elaborate? What are the gags? Because it just sounds like you're now going around the workshop putting whoopee cushions
under people's. Yeah, well, that would be a gag if you had to make that for a show. So a gag is basically the best way I can describe it is a magic trick for a movie. So it's something that is designed to look like something else on camera. like a makeup or a mask or something isn't a gag because it is what it is on camera. It's just, there's the mask, that's it. But a gag is something that if you need, for instance, the pig to breathe, they say, we want you to make us a silicon pig, but the pig needs to breathe in camera, then you would create this with it's just a party balloon actually in there on a thing, and then you're squeezing it. And that would be a gag because the pig's not actually alive, but it's giving the illusion of it.
Active, illusion and
illusion. It's an illusion, I guess, is one way to say it. Yeah.
This is the magic trick, huh?
Illusion, Michael. Trick is something a whore does for money.
The movie The Thing has some amazing. That's one of the OG prosthetic movies, and there's so many good gags in that.
So is that one of the horror? Is that one of the films that caught your eye, caught your attention?
I think The Thing was, when I started, my boss at the time was like, watch The Thing, and then if you're into that, then come back. And I watched it and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is so cool. And that's also without any VFX, that was all done in camera, the things that they did there, and like reverse photography and just every trick you could think of. And I definitely I enjoyed watching some of the old films. I might say his name incorrectly, but Milas, the guy that did those French, I think it's French. What's his name?
George Méliès?
George Méliès, yeah. So I've actually studied him at film school, and I saw some of the camera tricks that they were doing in those old movies. And I was like, it was so clever the way that they did, like, lock the camera off, like do something, and then move everyone around. And because the camera was static, they could repeat the camera move, and then they could edit the footage together. And it was just a very sort of logical, smart ways of creating a fantasy or a reality on camera. So I was into it then, and then when I saw The Thing, and I saw what you could do with silicon and latex in that instance, and like the little tricks you could do, I was like, okay, cool, that's something I could get into, yeah.
All right, so I mean, that was your journey into it. If someone else wanted to get into it nowadays, there's a lot more resources out there, but how would they do it? If you are interested, the internet is a great place to start. There's a place called Stan Winston School, which is actually it's a online, like, I guess you could say like a university or a course. It's an online course run by Matt Winston, who's Stan Winston's son. And Stan Winston was the
Jurassic Park, Terminator. Stan Winston Studios, pretty much in the heyday of this business in the late '80s, early '90s, when CGI wasn't as good as it is now, and people were still paying a lot of money to, like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, those guys had like a year just to prove that they could do it. Like they got on the payroll and they said, we need dinosaurs, figure it out in a year, and then once you figured it out, then we'll start paying you to make the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park.
And they come back and they say, well, look, so we figured out the easiest way is actually just to extract some mosquito DNA and clone them.
That's how they did it. That's how they did Jurassic Park. They literally cloned dinosaurs. A lot of what we know now comes from those years of like insane money and insane research and development. So like those guys paved the way for everyone now, which we owe them a lot, I think. So Stan Winston, check him out, check some of the movies he's done. But his son now runs the Stan Winston School, and they hire industry professionals in the States, in LA, to give like 3-hour DVD long courses of specific skills.
That's incredible.
Because what we do is, it's kind of like there's a lot of things that you need to be good at, and it's impossible to be good at all of them. Like literally impossible. You could try, but you just not enough years in your life. So there's like, punching hair to give something like little individual needle hair punching, or painting silicon, or sculpting, or seam filling, for instance, like how to take away, like when you take a mold and it comes together in a part, there's like a little seam where it joins. And there's an entire profession of people that are brilliant at making that seam disappear, so it looks like it's one whole piece. You don't see the.
So the heyday in the 80s, has that now kind of died away? And are these like practical skills being lost a little bit, or?
Initially, people were like, "Oh, this is it for us." Like after the CGI kind of took over, and there was definitely a trend in the early 2000s, like where I think producers were like really excited about the CGI, and it was kind of a fresh thing, and this was like the things that they could do were getting more and more interesting. There was a trend where it was mostly producers, the guys with the money, were saying that they don't trust the practical stuff to look real anymore. They're like, we don't think that you can pull it off. We'd rather have the CGI guys do it. And there's a lot of safety nets that they get with that, because they can do principal photography, they can shoot everything, and then they can agonize over the CGI afterwards. They're not waiting for a film crew to finish shooting, or they're not on that kind of deadline. So later on, they can get 3 or 4 guys to like tweak the CGI. So it's cheaper from that perspective, and a bit like it's easier for a director to be like, we'll fix it in post, because then he can divert his entire attention to fixing it in post instead of trying to come up with it on the day when there's so many things going on. So there was a trend for CGI to become really popular, and then everyone got really sick of CGI. The Transformers, just everyone was like, ugh, it's too much. Because it is amazing what they can do, but there's a degree of separation. Like I'm aware that I'm watching something that is computer generated, even if it looks 100% real.
Yeah, there's a certain amount where things like that are impossible need to almost look more real than real.
Yeah. And they're getting really good at making things look more real than real. That uncanny valley place, right? With
honestly, sometimes I see an animal in real life and I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
That's
Is that how animals move? It's not as convincing.
Yeah, that's true.
Not as convincing as an actual animal.
As an actual animal. Who knows, right? We could be in the simulation.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Cannibal Holocaust?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
that's horrifying film because I was watching it and they got the special effects. The guy stabs a muskrat and it starts squealing, and the way it moves is kind of weird. And then you realize it's not a special effect. They just literally
killed
butchered animals.
Yeah, man. That sea turtle one was hard to watch, actually. That's my biggest problem with the film, I think. I think it's pretty cool that they had to bring the actor in to a courtroom to prove that they didn't actually kill a real person. So,
is that real?
So apparently, allegedly, the director was accused of, because he got in trouble, obviously, for the
murdering
entertainment of other
animals.
people, murdering sea turtles on camera. And then there's a scene where they bury it's like the simplest gag in the book. He's on the beach, they dig a U, and he lies in the U in the sand, and they just put a pig belly over his actual torso, and then put a shirt over it. And then the guy sticks a knife into the pig belly and starts pulling out real pig guts, which look super, super gross. And obviously he's just safely under the old false table thing, yeah. But it looked really real, it was really well done, and it fooled a lot of people. And apparently, I'm not sure if it's 100% true, but I've heard that he had to then defend his position in court by bringing the person that died on screen to the judge to prove that he didn't actually kill him.
Yeah, you'd think that would be a slam dunk case. You'd just be like, no,
here he is.
Here he is.
Yeah. Well, identical twins, who knows, man? If you can't figure out how to do it, just kill the identical twin of the person, yeah.
I can imagine like the casting room. And tell me, do you have any very close siblings?
Yeah. Do you have, that... One of the cheats we do, well, not cheats, but we often get amputees. Mm-hmm. So if someone needs to lose an arm, or someone needs to have a finger cut off, or someone needs to have a leg amputated on camera, the first thing we do is we'll go to the database of amputee extras or actors that have on the database, and we get them in, we live cast their limbs, and then we create a fresh silicon limb for them, and then in camera you can visibly chop it off without any CGI or anything. We obviously check if it would be traumatic for them, but most of them are down. They think it's pretty fun to do that.
All these practical effects and these digital advances. You brought some stuff to show us of how the digital and the practical are merging together.
That was always the argument with it, was that the practical guys were like, no, CG sucks, like let's stick with the practical, and then the CG guys were like, well, we just faster and better than you, so deal with it. And the real answer was just like, we're joining, right? We're joining teams, because at the end of the day, our goal is the same, to make something look cool. And so what we've been doing over the last couple of years is we've been trying to incorporate as many digital workflows into our sort of practical, traditional work like pipeline to make things work faster. Because like the faster you can shoot a movie, the faster, the less money you need to spend. So we get less and less pre-production every show almost. So we need to be quicker at making things. And digital is the king of doing things quickly, because if you need to make 2 pigs, you can just Control-C, Control-V, right? Then done. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but it is that easy. So so some of the things we've made is, if you look at this is a traditional mold that I made of
the old school
makeup.
Traditional way of how to do it.
Old school traditional matrix mold, it's called, and this is my face. You can see there's my face there, and that's from a cast of my face. So it's literally, I sit there, they take silicone, they mix it up, they put it over my face, and then when the silicone hardens, they take plaster of Paris bandages.
After a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's a little quicker than that, but like it takes a while. It's probably about 20 minutes. And then once that's in, then they do a plaster bandage jacket over that, which is like the hard shell. So the silicon's kind of soft and the hard shell keeps the overall form. Then once that's set, they take it off you, and then you can pour some kind of liquid plastic or stone or something, gemstone into it, and then create a positive of your face, which you can then sculpt on. And that process of the live cast takes a while, and it's quite uncomfortable. It's not horrible, but it's like, if you're claustrophobic, you're gonna have a bad time. So that was how we used to do it, and we still do from time to time. But what we've started doing now is, with the 3D scanning becoming cheaper, now you can buy quite a decent 3D scanner from China for about 80,000 Rand. So here is an example of my face again. You can see there's a similarity.
Right, what's up with using your face so much?
Mostly just because normally you can't use other people's likenesses for stuff that they didn't agree to.
Okay.
So if I have like an actor's likeness, I need to get their permission to use their face. And if you finish a production, you have to smash their likeness. Because you could sell realistic Tom Cruise puppets, and he'd be like, "Hey, stop that."
That is fascinating. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At the end of it, do you get to make a little ceremony of it, where you just go out with a bat and just
Oh yeah, take out all your anger with a mallet and just smash some heads
on whoever it is, Matthew McConaughey or whoever.
So you can keep them as long as you're looking after them, but and we do. But if you are, say for instance, leaving or throwing stuff away, you can't just put it in the bin. You have to smash it before you throw it away. Yeah, just because someone might find this and be like, "Hey, this person looks familiar." Weirdly though, like famous live casts you don't often see the resemblance. It's quite strange. But yeah, so this is my cast, and this is from a 3D scan, which was then scaled down. So it's obviously something you could never do with the practical. If I had a live cast on myself, I could only ever make a life-size copy and then use that as reference and sculpt a smaller one, right? Which would take a week. So this way, it's literally, you scan me, you put it in the program, and then you just shrink it. And then there you go. There's the 1/4 scale version of me. And we made this specifically to do like fast little sculpts, like little maquette sculpts. So when you want to get an idea across to a director, he says, I want like a guy with a swollen eye. You can quickly just block out a swollen eye on this. And it's like little balls of clay. It'll take you 10 minutes. So it's a really fast way of showing. And then another thing.
Rapid prototyping.
Yeah, rapid prototyping. Getting answers quickly. That's a big thing for us. Because there's a lot of, like a director doing a show has to answer like 1 million questions a day, right? He's got to like choose the wardrobe, choose the makeup, choose the sets, everything. So his plate is full, his or her plate is full. We have to try and get answers from him quickly. And the faster we can get stuff to him and then change it and then show him again, the faster we can get stuff done.
So I see, you can get 3D scanners now on some cell phones even.
Yeah. You can get the LiDAR. It's actually not bad. But yeah, it's now basically in the hands of everybody, which is super exciting.
Yeah. So people, are you kind of seeing an explosion of people with these skills, or is that the cosplay community maybe?
Yeah, I think that what 3D printing and 3D scanning is doing is making the cost of entry much less for people, because the amount of space and like mess and expensive chemicals you have to order from overseas you need to do this stuff is now completely circumvented by just printing it on like a 10,000 Rand 3D printer, something that you scan on your phone. So that's allowing somebody to, so it's making it more accessible, which is awesome.
I think a lot of people are actually surprised how many films and how much film and TV gets made in South Africa or for the overseas market.
A lot, man. Yeah, it's been great.
So what are some of the films that you've worked on?
The most famous one, I guess, is Mad Max Fury Road. That was like the biggest production I've been a part of. But then I've done, I did Bloodshot with Vin Diesel here 2-3 years ago, and then we just finished up the second season of Raised by Wolves, which was that HBO series. I did all of most of the Zootee Studios shorts on Netflix now. That's cool. Neil Blomkamp's short films, which are all amazing. If you haven't seen them, you should check them out. Really cool. And then like a string of things that I have to go to my IMDb profile to remember that I even did it. I'm like, oh wow. A lot of things that I probably will be ashamed to admit that I did, but like I think everybody's got to have those.
Everyone's got to have a learning curve.
Yeah. A funny story about that. Everyone has their like dog pancake movie that they've done that they just like will try and sweep under the rug.
Dog pancake.
Yeah. And I was working with, I was actually on the Zootee Studio stuff. Alec Gillis, who he owns Legacy Effects in LA, was down to make. He did some cyber suits for this Oat Studio thing, which were awesome. These cool like future soldier suits. And we were doing the prosthetics, and he invited us out for supper because we were the other prosthetics artists, and we were all kind of starstruck. And we were all around the table talking shop, I guess, and just sharing stories. And one of the most famous bad practical effects is Jaws 3D, where there's like, you could Google it, YouTube it, there's like a scene where there's like a shark and it's like coming towards this like glass pane, and it's just this very obvious like static shark, and it's kind of floating towards this, and it like slowly, and then there's like this really bad like composited shattering glass effect, and then this thing comes in, and it's like kind of regarded as one of the worst effects ever done for camera. I mean, I don't know if it is objectively the worst one, but it's just one that people like to joke about. So then I brought this up, going like, hey, well, I mean, have you guys seen this Jaws 3D show? Turns out Alec Gillis obviously did it, right? He was the guy that made that whole thing. So he let me tell my whole story, and then he's like, yeah, actually that was my shot. But he did have a chuckle and agree that it was a bit shit, but you know.
Everyone's got the dog pancake.
Everyone's got the dog pancake. I just happened to bring his one up without knowing. Yeah.
All right, with that, I'm going to bring it to a close. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your pigs and your stories.
Yeah.
Your dog pancakes and all. Yeah, this has been Speak to the Geek. I've been speaking to the geek, Mathew Howard-Tripp. You can catch his work on his IMDb and a very extensive list.
Not that extensive. It's just,
yeah, so please like, share, and subscribe.
Some dog pancakes on it.
It's okay. Some dog pancakes on there. Check out his dog pancakes. And I'm just going to give you like an envelope full of cash for like a Vin Diesel bust, right?
Oh, you want a Vin Diesel bust?
Yeah, I mean, you've got one. You haven't smashed it, right? Okay.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Envelope full of cash.